1 minute out. And for those of you just joining, we are going to have a little theme song today before Kari Cincotta takes over facilitating. She's coming in hot this year with the favorite facilitator award. Just I didn't think of playing music at the beginning of any of my sessions, so here we go.
What is the favorite facilitator award going to be?
It's time to play the music. It's time to meet the man on the show tonight. It's time to hold on the finger. It's time to collaborate. It's time to raise the curtain on the show tonight.
And with that, I turn it over to Kari and Sue for the session.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this NEDA Know-How session. Today, we are going to have Sue McKeown talk about how to enter a recognized show and get the smiley face. I would like to let you know that for the first time this year, we have sponsors for a couple of the NEDA Know-Hows. This year's sponsor for this session is Landvest. And to give you a little bit of information about Landvest, they are a real estate company. They work to solve the hard problems. They face the challenges without stepping away from them. They are the ones who demand experience, foresight, collaboration of the highest level. They show up early, they listen attentively, they ask good questions, and they act when it counts. Their edge is collaboration and working selflessly to support each other and the sharing of expertise that they have earned over decades. That's how they manage to see around the corners, those tricky corners. We've all been there, and deliver outcomes that others cannot. Luxury is not a price point, it's their level of service. And it's the professionalism that brought to their task, regardless of the scope. So thank you to Landvest for assisting us. And I want to give a little introduction about our expert today, Sue McKeown. Many of you have probably either worked through her or had her as a show secretary. She has been involved with dressage for over 40 years, first as a competitor and then as a competition secretary and a manager. She has earned her bronze and silver and gold medals on her 2 Swedish Warmbloods and truly enjoys all aspects of training and showing as an adult amateur. She has been a secretary and or manager for shows for over 100 shows in the New England area, including manager of the 2019 Region 8 Championships, secretary for the 2022 Region 8 Championships, and assistant show secretary for the US Dressage Finals for the past several years. She is currently serving her third 3-year term as a USDF Technical Counsel at Large Director. Sue will bring to you her wealth and experience on how to enter a dressage show. Sue, you're on.
Thank you, Kari. Appreciate it. So we are going to be talking about doing show entries for recognized and licensed USEF, USDF shows. Schooling shows sometimes have some of the same requirements, but we'll be concentrating on those recognized shows. And what we're trying to do is to get the smiley face. This is something that shows up on the software if your secretary is using Horse Show Office is the name of the software. And when everything is complete on the entry, you get a green smiley face. The secretaries love it. If it's not, it's a red frowny face. So we don't like those. If you want to see what it looks like, ask your secretary when you're at the show, so you can see your own green smiley face. The outline of topics on the next page, we're going to talk about setting your goals, things that you have to do before you actually sit down and do the entry, the memberships and registrations, the horse requirements, looking at the show prize list and what's in that, and then actually doing the entry. I've always thought that 80% of the work was before you actually did the entry. And in doing this presentation, that's really what I found. It was very interesting. So on the next page, what are your goals for the year? Are you hoping just to compete in 1 or 2 shows just to see how things are going? Maybe you want to try and save some money by not getting all of the memberships. So look for opportunity classes in the shows. And you would just minimize what shows you would do. Are you trying to compete in enough shows to qualify for GMO year-end awards? Make sure you read the requirements, the number of shows, the classes, do they require different judges? So you need to know what those requirements are before you decide what shows you're going to do. Are you trying to obtain your USDF medals? Then you should definitely look in the member guide. I've got a picture of this year's member guide this year. In there are all the rules for the USDF medals, year-end USDF year-end awards, and how to qualify for regional championships, etc. So that's a very good resource so that you know what it is and what shows you're going to try to go to. On the next page, are you hoping to make it to regional championships? Different requirements in terms of what memberships you need. So you need to know what those are. And again, those would be in the member guide. Or are you even hoping to qualify for NAYC or the US Dressage Festival of Champions? Here, you really need to go to the USEF website and look at the things that are needed for you to declare that you're trying to qualify for that, and then what shows you would go. If for those NAYC or Dressage Festival, it's actually the show that is the qualifier. So you need to make sure you go to the correct shows so that your scores would count, as well as you and your horse have to have the right memberships and registration. So let's talk about on the next page, the memberships for 2026, what is required. We're going to be really looking at 3 different organizations, the USEF, the USDF, and then your own GMHO. So a GMO would be like NEDA, okay, or CVDA. So if you're trying to do year-end awards, there would be certain things you might need from them. And also, there is a membership that you would get if you are a GMO member. So we'll be talking about that. And then there are 2 types of memberships. The human, and that we need for the rider, owner, trader, and coach. Let's talk a minute about what those words mean. Rider and owner are sort of easy to understand. The trainer has a specific meaning on a horse show entry. The trainer is the adult on the showgrounds responsible for the horse. An adult, that means 18 or over, on the showgrounds, not somebody who you left at home. They have to be on the showgrounds, and they're responsible for the horse. If the horse is drug tested, who are they going to come after? That's what the trainer is, and that's the best way to think about it. And it needs to be an adult. And as we get later talking about sending out confirmations that the secretary has to do, they're going to send the confirmation to the rider and to the trainer. And if it's a junior, with Safe Sport these days, we have to make sure we're not sending an email that is just going to junior. It has to be copied. The email has to have at least copied on another adult. So that's why it's very important as a secretary to make sure that trainer is an adult. The coach is the person who yells at you in the warm-up circle to sit up straight. Okay, that's what a coach is on an entry. You do not need to have a coach. You do have to have a trainer. You have to have the rider. You have to have the owner. You don't need the coach. That's optional. The name should be the same for USEF and USDF. Everything's computerized these days, so they sort by name. And Susan McKeown is somebody different than Sue McKeown. And you're not going to get your points. You're not going to get your championships awarded to you correctly if you don't use the same name. It's easy when you get married and you think about, okay, I've changed my name, but make sure that when you actually register for both, you're using the same name. The owner of the horse has to be the same for USEF and USDF. So you can't have for USEF that the owner is ABC Farm, and for USDF, it's Susie Jones who owns ABC Farm. They have to be the same owner on record. A horse membership, recall registration, a horse registration. And again, the name of the horse must be exactly the same. This one is really critical. Names sometimes we'll fudge on a little bit for humans, but for the horse name, it really has to be exactly the same. Capital letters, small letters, make it the same. It will make your life so much easier. On the next page, we'll start getting into the details. Human memberships for this year with USEF. Your membership for USEF has to be done online. It cannot be done at the show anymore. This changed about 2 or 3 years ago. So if you need a USEF membership, you need to renew, or you're a new rider coming in, you have to go to usdf.org and get the membership. The secretary can instantly look it up and see that it's done. It's really interesting. It really is done immediately. We get notified when you do a membership and you're in a show. The competing memberships, here's a little warning for you. It's March 19th. The prices go up on the memberships on April 1st for USEF. It's going from $80 to $100. So if you want to save 20 bucks, get your membership done in USEF now. The 3-year membership is $145 and lifetime is $24.20. A lot of money, definitely big bucks. But if you're a young professional and going into it, it's going to save you in the long run. Competing memberships must complete safe sport training. This is something that USEF is very serious about, I'm sure, as you all know. So you have to have a competing membership in almost all cases. And you would, if you're 18 and older, you have to complete safe sport training. And it's once a year, there's a refresher course. I just did the one for this year and it took me a little bit longer than I thought it would. So please do this before you get to the show, especially if the show doesn't have good Wi-Fi. You will be in big difficulties then. So you need to complete your safe sport. Trainer and coach must have competing membership. They cannot have a non-membership. The non-membership of USEF is called Show Pass. And it's good for only one show in a 12-month time period. It's $85. That's gone up also this year. So if you're going to show more than 1 year, more than one show in the year, go ahead and get the competing membership because it'll save you money in the long run. During the application, when you apply to be a USEF member, that's when you declare that you're an adult amateur. Okay, that's how the secretary knows that you're an adult amateur. They don't take your word for it at the show. Sorry. We look at what was your USEF membership, and if you registered as an adult amateur, then that's what you are. Registered, if your birth date makes you 21 or less, you're a junior young rider. And then open or professional is the other category. But if you want to be an adult amateur, you do it through USEF. For business and farm membership, there's really no fee in USEF. You really don't renew it or anything else. But the primary owner of that business or of that farm has to have a competing membership. Okay, so remember on the previous page, I said the memberships have to be the same for the owner. For the horse, the owner has to be the same person. So if you have the business owning it in USDF, you need to have the business owning it in USEF But then we're going to look at the primary person of that business and make sure that they have a competing membership and therefore have done Safe Sport.
So we have a couple of questions on this slide. Do you want to handle them now?
Sure, why not?
Okay. One question is, what about a person, they're kind of similar. What about a person who is competing, who's coming by themselves to their first show? Are they the trainer slash coach, or is that blank?
They have to be trainer, and I would say 75% of our competitors are also listed as the trainer. So that's very common. They would have no coach because nobody is yelling at them in the training unless they talk really loudly to themselves, but we don't call that a coach.
And the second question was, when you don't have a trainer, should the owner's name be used as the person responsible?
Who's the person on the showgrounds? Is the owner there? Are they the ones who are going to feed the horse? Then yes, it would be the owner. Is it the rider? Then have it be the rider. Same person, but list that person as the coach.
So
Excuse me, as the trainer.
So the rider can be the rider and the trainer.
Yes.
And the owner, all three.
Yep. They can be all three.
And
in
the rider,
case, they do not pay the non-membership fee 3 times or have 3 memberships. They just have to do one membership.
Okay. Or if the owner isn't on the grounds, the rider can be the trainer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But they still have to list the owner even though the owner's not on grounds.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. They have to list the owner, and the owner would have to have a membership, either a show pass for one show or a competing membership.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's go to horse memberships on the next page. And like I said, these really are called registrations. So we'll talk about horse registration. Again, USDF, you have to get it online. I can't help you at the show other than telling you what the online website is. 4 levels, each of them need an owner for the horse. HID is no charge, okay? You can get an HID online. There's no charge. You get a number, and that's then the number for the horse. And you can compete with an HID. If you want to get certain awards or try and go for regional championships, you need to have either the annual or the lifetime horse recording. And again, the fees are going up on April 1st. So you've got 2 weeks. If you are doing an annual, go ahead and get it now. Lifetime, definitely think about it and get it now. Interesting, if we have any breeders on the call, if you go ahead and get a lifetime foal recording, okay, very inexpensive. And this is a real selling point for when you sell the horse, that this horse already has a lifetime registration number. The person buying that horse, that foal, does not need to get another number. They have that number and it is lifetime. So as I say in the paragraph here, once a number is given to a horse, it stays with the horse. If you buy a horse, don't go and register it again if it already has a number. Okay, they've already paid for it and they have a number for it, and you would use that. You would have to do an owner transfer, and there's a form and a payment for that. It's minimal. But in order to transfer the owner from the original owner to your name. Okay. If the horse has an annual and you don't update it, then it will revert back and that would be considered an HID. Same number, but that horse then just has an HID. They don't have a annual or lifetime. Okay. Now let's talk about USDF. Starting with the humans, you can get your participating membership before the show at USDF.org, or you can do it at the show, and it is valid for the show. Okay. The USDF memberships are good from December 1st through November 30th. So slight difference between USEF and USDF. USEF is a 12-month cycle. USDF is a specific calendar year of December 1st through November 30th. Here are the prices of the participating membership for adult and youth, and also the 5-year and lifetime. You can also be a group member and ride at a recognized show. Now, a group member means that you're a member of a GMO and they will have submitted your name to USDF. The number that you get when either you become a GM member or a PM member, that number is your number. So if the next year you don't renew your USDF, but you're still in a GMO and you pay your GMO dues, you would have that same number, and that would be your GM member. GM membership cannot be used if you want to go for a regional championship as an example. So, but if you're, riding for local, then that's fine, and you could use it all year. Please allow time for GMO to get that information to USDF so that I, as a secretary, can see it. It isn't just that you have paid your dues to the GMO. The GMO has to submit that too. And most GMOs do that in batch. So they'll send, maybe at the end of each month, they'll send a whole batch of names to USDF. So please make sure that you, Dawn's asking for time. They need time to get that. So if you're planning on using that, we will, really try and mitigate it as much as we can to try and help out, but that's the basic. There is a business membership that can be used for an owner of a horse, but you can't use a business membership for a rider, trainer, or a coach. It just logically doesn't make sense. And they do have a non-membership. It's $55 per competition. And it's funny, several times you might get a confirmation that says you need to submit the USDF non-member form. There is no form. Okay. You just say that you're going to do non-member, and then you would pay the $55. It is $55 per competition. So if you're going to a show with that Friday is one show and Saturday, Sunday is another show, you would have to pay that non-member fee for both shows. Okay, so it's $55 per. And they do not have the limit that you can only do so many per year. You can do the whole year. Any questions at this?
Can we clarify? So if you don't want to do if you don't want to buy the memberships, you can get a USEF show pass for one show and a USDF non-membership.
Yep.
But because you can only do one USEF show pass a year, you really can only show in one show.
Right.
Because you need both, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I hope that was clear.
Okay. On the next page, we'll talk about horse registrations. Again, you can get them beforehand at usdf.org, or you can get it at the show. There are only 2 levels in USDF. The horse ID is good for the lifetime of the horse, but they don't call it lifetime because the lifetime is the special one where the horse is registered and you can do your regional championship qualifying tests, etc. So difference between HID and lifetime is really what type of shows you want to be doing. And you can upgrade from HID to lifetime for that difference in price at any time. So, if you're just starting out, start with the HID, and then you'll be able to upgrade later, and you're not going to be paying any more money. Okay.
But you can't ride a qualifying class if you have an HID.
Correct. So you need the lifetime.
Okay.
You could ride in the class, but it won't be a qualifying ride. Right.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, on the next page, I talk about owners versus lessees. So if you have a formal written lease for your horse, you must register that lease with both USEF and USDF. Okay. The leasee, the person who is leasing the horse, then becomes, and I've put owner in quotes, for the purpose of the entry. And all communication is done with the leasee and not the owner. Okay, not the real owner, if you will. Okay, it's the leasee becomes the owner de facto for that entry. So they would have to have the correct memberships, and it doesn't matter if the owner does not have memberships. We wouldn't go and look for the owner's information. The one exception to this is pony measurement. If you've got leasing a pony, okay, and you're the leasee, when you go to have the pony measured, you're going to have both the owner and the leasee have USEF numbers. Okay, that's the only exception. Other than that, we don't pay any attention to the owner at all. We just look at the leasee for numbers. Okay. Any questions on memberships registrations?
We don't have any in the chat.
Good. Okay, why don't we move on, and if something comes up, we can talk about it later.
Yes.
Okay, now some other horse requirements, medical. Again, name on the forms must be the same. This is probably the number one thing that I run into problems with. You know, your horse is called Marshall and your Coggins says Marty. No, I don't have a Marty entered in the show. I have a Marshall entered in the show. And this is a USDF rule. It has to be the same. Okay, so name on the forms, I'm talking about the Coggins, your vet forms, any forms that you're submitting, have the horse's registered name that you registered in as an entry with USEF and USDF. Coggins, most shows are 12-month requirement. There are some shows that ask for 6 months. I know Devon used to. I don't know whether they do anymore or not. Usually Coggins has to be done within the past 12 months. Flu rhino, EIA, EIV. Okay, that's flu rhino. I got to tell you, I went for my flu and COVID shot this year, and I asked for a flu rhino shot, and they looked at me like I was crazy. But anyway, flu rhino, USEF rule is 6 months. This came in about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, 6-month requirement. So that is one that you need to do twice a year. Okay. If your horse cannot take the flu rhino shot, and that's typical, it happens, okay, then if you look at General Rule 845, that's the USEF rules, General Rule 845, it gives the requirement for either the vet gives the vaccination, if the caregiver or the owner, okay, gives the shot, certain documents you need to submit, or if the horse is not able to have vaccinations. You know, you need a note from your doctor, and you need to take temperatures for the horse. So all of those situations are explained in what you have to provide to the secretary. Many shows are asking for rabies, rabies vaccination. Okay, they're asking usually for 12 months. Many shows also say that you can do a titer, which says that you take a blood test and it shows there's enough rabies prevention in the blood. And as long as the titer was done within 12 months, that would also be acceptable. Health certificate. A lot of people have questions about this. Very few shows actually are asking for the health certificate. Where the health certificate is needed is if you're transporting that horse across state boundaries, if you're on an interstate, state police can stop you and ask for a health certificate for the horse that's coming in. It's done, maybe not frequently, but fairly common for people going down to Florida, that they need to prove that their horse has been vaccinated, doesn't have Coggins, etc., bringing it in and it's healthy. If you're going to Kentucky Horse Park, that's a place that sometimes will ask to see, okay, the police, before you get into the Kentucky Horse Park, will ask for that. But again, it's not normally a show requirement, just something for you to have, put in your, glove compartment of your truck, and then you've got it. It's good for 30 days. Microchip. I thought I'd be sitting here talking about the microchip rule, but they postponed it for a year. So there is a USDF rule that all horses and USDF shows have to be microchipped. The number would be registered with USDF, and the show secretary will be validating that, yes, you do have a microchip. They will not actually be testing to see whether that's the microchip on that horse. We're not having to do testing of that sort yet, but just that you've done a microchip and have a microchip in your horse. Again, that has been delayed for a year. That is not true for this year. It will start in December 1st. I would make a suggestion. It's coming, and it was only delayed because certain breed registries weren't ready for it yet. But it is definitely coming. When your vet comes out to do your shots in the fall, have them go ahead and do the microchip. Save an extra trip for the vet to come in and do it. It's fairly inexpensive, and it needs to be done one time.
We do have a question on microchipping, if I can ask. Is there any technical requirement for the type of chip or the document? Is there a document on those requirements?
The rule talks about it. It's a 15 character. There's some specific on it. I don't know it off the top of my head. And like I said, since it wouldn't be done this year. So.
Are there any medical forms, quote unquote, saved in horse show office, or do they need to be sent with each entry?
Okay, I'm going to go into that actually in the next slide. So,
okay,
good question.
And then someone indicated, just FYI, that her Friesian's Afana, did I say that right? Microchip is not acceptable to USDF. So again, you got to kind of do your homework. I do want to go back to the horse name, and in my experience as a show secretary, when you get the medical forms and you've got the barn name of the horse on the form and the registered name of the horse at the show, and it's a Saturday. I've seen riders kind of struggle to call the vet, to get the vet on the phone on a Saturday or a Sunday and say, yes, that's the same horse, to try to clear up this error. So very important to make sure that those names match before you get to the showgrounds, because sometimes it's very hard to give the proof that the horse is the horse that we have in the show. You've probably had this experience yourself, Sue.
Oh, yes, many, many times.
Okay, we have a question. What if my Coggins has a barn name, not registered name of the horse?
Okay, it is not legal to change to write on a Coggins and change it. Okay, so technically, you would have to have a new Coggins drawn. I'm not that mean. Most secretaries here in New England are not that mean. What we will ask is a note from your vet on their stationery, okay, or an email directly from them that says, yes, Fred is the barn name of Calypso or whatever, okay, and we will take that. And then we will just ask, hey, try and remember this for next year, okay? You're going to do this every 12 months. I'll let you get away with it this year. We've got a workaround, but please get your vets to not use the barn names. And vets are getting better about it too. On their records, fine if they've got the barn name on their records, but they're all computerized. It's simple enough to have both the barn name and the official name on the vet records.
Don posted in the chat that USDF has a webinar on the microchiption on March 25th. Another question is, my vet's docs always have horse name and horse name, also known as barn name.
That's perfect.
Yep.
That's absolutely perfect, and that's what we like. Okay. And
Can you
quite
have
often,
both?
if I have that on the Coggins,
Mhm.
and then I get the Flu Rhino documentation and it just has the barn name, as long as I can cross-reference it, I will accept it. But I'll point it out to the person, hey, really get your vet to do that same thing on their own records.
So you can you have both names on the Coggins? I think the answer
Yes.
is yes, but I'll let
Yes.
you. Okay, yes.
Yep. Yep. In
Yes.
fact, there's one Coggins form that actually has a place for registered name and barn name. Okay.
Okay. Off we go.
Okay. So you've now done all of these things prior to the show. It's now time to look at the show. So let's look at the prize list on the next page. Things that you should look for in the prize list, and every prize list should have this one way or the other. We don't have a standard format across every show, but all shows will have these things in them. The opening and closing dates. And we have some shows, such as Bear Spot, that we now have an opening time. Okay, we no longer are getting up at midnight in order to do our entries for Bear Spot. We have 7 p.m. is when it opens on the opening date. So really read the opening and closing dates. The class lists and fees, which is probably the thing you're most interested in. How and where to enter, whether you're going to use horseshowoffice.com, whether you're going to send in a hard copy, who you're going to send the hard copy to, that would be in the prize list. How you're going to pay, okay? Credit card, what credit cards are accepted, check. We actually accept cash too, but usually not through the mail. Judges, this is an important thing. Make sure that you're not entering a show that you've got a conflict with the only judge that's judging. And a conflict would be because you've taken lessons from them, you've taken a clinic from them within the past 60 days, 30 days, depending upon the situation. If there are several judges that are going to be there and you have a conflict with one, go ahead and enter, but just put a note on your entry, and there are places in the entry forms where you can do that, saying, I cannot ride with Susie Smith because I train with her. And the secretary then will make every effort to make sure that that doesn't happen. Alternatively, when they get your entry, if there isn't going to be any way, so you're entering a pre-St. George class and this is the only S judge who can judge that class, they'll get back to you and say it's not going to be possible, okay? And you would have the option of going ahead and doing the entry and enter as HC, which means hors de concours, French phrase, meaning you're going to ride for the honor, but the score won't count. You can't turn it in for anything. Or most secretaries would let you withdraw at that point and not even really do the entry. What the vaccination requirements are. As I said before, rabies is optional in some shows, so take a look at this at the time you read the prize list so that you know. And then pages needing signatures. So basically there are going to be 3 pages that are going to need signatures for every 2 to 3 for every show. If we go to the next page, the first is the entry page. And this is the one that's on the left as you look at it. This entry is for every show, okay? So if you have a show that's a Friday is one show and Saturday and Sunday is another, the secretary needs 2 of these forms with the specific show name and show dates up at the top so that we know which show it is. This is not a form that you can sign and then send to every show that you go to. This is per show. And here on the form is a place to sign for the rider, owner, trainer, coach, if you're going to have a coach, and then a parent or guardian for juniors who are under 18. You don't have to have everybody's signature on the same page. So let's say your coach you're not going to see until next week and get them to sign. you can send in a separate form at that point, okay? But we need all of the forms that are signatures of the people who are going to be there. The form on the right is the USEF waiver. It's different than the entry form. There's the entry form, entry page, signature page on the left, and the waiver, USEF waiver on the right. These are now state specific. And if you look in the middle section where it's sort of bolded, you can see this one is for Massachusetts. Do you have the cursor, Dawn, that you could sort of wave around there so that people see that? See where it says Massachusetts right there? So this would be the waiver you would send in for a show that is held in Massachusetts. So Bear Spot, Mount Holyoke, NEDA that's in Massachusetts. Okay, that's the one. But this is not the form that you would use for Mystic Valley, because Mystic Valley is in Connecticut. It's not the one you would use for GMHA, because they're in Vermont. So of the 50 states, about 43 of them have state specific. And then one is generic, and that's actually Connecticut is one that is generic. And it says, in most states, there is some sort of liability, okay? So you'll see that. It won't actually name the state, but it's a generic one. Connecticut and New Hampshire actually both use that form. So be sure you send in the waiver for the state where the show is. Now, the question was, if I send this in for one show, can I use it for another? Okay, this gets really tricky. So if the secretary is using the software Horse Show Office, which most of the secretaries here in New England do use. Debbie Reinhardt uses it for the hit shows and NEDA. I use it, Tammy uses it. So most of them are using Horse Show Office. We each have our own database. We do not share our databases. So if you enter a show with me and then 2 months later enter another show with me, I have your horse's Coggins. I have your horse's Flu Rhino. Assuming the dates are still good, you do not have to resubmit those. I would have the USEF waiver if it's in the same state that this second show. So if you did Mystic Valley and then did Bear Spot, nope, those are two different waivers. But if you then did Bear Spot and Mount Holyoke, they're both Massachusetts. You would not have to send me the USEF waiver again. The waiver is yearly. The one on the right-hand side, the USEF waiver is yearly. The one on the left, per show. Every show has to have. And every secretary has their own separate database. So that sort of explains, do you have to send it or not send it? Okay. The third form that I talked about on the previous is a facility waiver. Some facilities have specific waivers that says you're not going to sue the facility. They feel that they need that extra protection. GMHA is one that has it. I don't think Mount Holyoke does. Magnolia is a new one that I'm doing that has it. So some do and some don't. Again, you would find it in the prize list if you wanted to see it, and you would also be able to get it once you actually did the entry. Okay. So
We have a question.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm assuming the question is for the entry form, Sue. Exactly what do you fill in on the top blanks at the top of the entry form?
Okay. So the show name and the show dates.
Okay.
And then right here, no, I guess you can't see where I'm moving my cursor. On the left-hand side, on the waiver. Oh, you're asking on the waiver.
On the waiver.
Yep, you could just name the show here, or you could just say USEF event. You could actually leave it blank, to tell you the truth. Okay?
Okay.
I'm not concerned on it. Down here on the bottom, you need to sign it, date it, and print the name. And again, I need the parent guardian.
Okay. But on both, they can just put the show name and the show dates.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I think that's the question we had on those forms. I will
Okay.
tell you though, these forms, in my experience, and maybe Sue will agree, are the reason a lot of people get the frowny face.
Yeah. We have shared things. At this time of the year, it's Coggins and flu. I know people haven't gotten
Yep.
them for their horses yet. So it's a bunch of things. It's a
Yeah.
bunch of things. Okay. Next
Next
page.
slide.
Okay, other details you should look at in the prize list. Stabling. Ugh. Please name your group. One name. I don't care what the name is. I really don't. But this is how we do stabling. At the end of the entry time frame, it's time to do stabling. We collect everybody who wants a stall and we sort all of that information by group name so that everyone who put down Sally's stable is going to come alphabetically. It will sort in that order. But if Mary and Susie wanted to be together, and Mary said she wanted to be in Susie group, and Susie said she wanted to be in Mary's group, guess what? Susie and Mary don't sort next to each other. So I'm never going to see those if I'm trying to stable 500 horses like at US Finals. Please decide on a name. I don't care what the name is, any name, but use the same name and then I'll make sure that you're together. Okay, that's probably the thing that is most done incorrectly. Okay, very, very simple, but decide on the name. I try and get it right. I go through it and look for mistakes beforehand, but I miss them all the time. So also make sure that everyone in your group gets the same type of stabling. So if there's temp and perm at that particular facility, make sure you all ask for temp or all ask for perm. I can't put you together otherwise. And this is a suggestion that Kari had made. If you have a stallion, it's awfully nice if you also got a tack stall, so at least we have some buffer next to him. But let us know if he can be next to one of your, hey, I've got 2 stallions and they stable together all the time. It's helpful to us to know that. So look in the prize list for hay and shavings if they're offered. You're going to want to put that on your entry form so that they'll be there at your stall when you check in. If you're doing a freestyle, music and sound check. The prize list has to say what type of music format we'll take. Usually it's WAV or MP3. Many places can't take MP4. Their particular equipment won't play it. So just be sure that you know what format we'll take. And then it should say how you'll get a time for the sound check, whether it will be assigned right away, whether it will be assigned when you show up at the show. And a sound check is just to play, 15, 30 seconds of your music, make sure the sound is what you want, the volume is correct. It does not play all the way through, okay? Many secretaries will try and play the music all the way through when they receive it, just to make sure there's no problem. But it really is your responsibility to make sure you send us a good music file. If you're doing a freestyle, you also have to have a qualifying score of 63%, yes, 63, I think it is, or higher at test 3 of the level or a higher level test. The program checks for that, and we would send back in a confirmation saying, no, you can't, ride the freestyle. I've had requests of people say, well, I'll get my qualifying score on Saturday and then I want to ride the freestyle on Sunday. It has to be in a previous show. So if you've got a show of Friday is one show, you can get your qualifying score for freestyle there. You could then do a freestyle in the Saturday, Sunday show. Okay, but it has to be a different show. It can't be the same show. In the prize list, check what your ring size is. Many shows like to put intro tests, the para tests, if they can, into a small arena. But they might not have the ability to change. They don't want to take the time to change the ring size. So know what ring size you're going to be riding in before you get to the show. And that will be stated in the prize list. And then pony measurement. When is a pony measurement going to be done? It's your responsibility to request a pony measurement to the secretary a week before the closing date, at least a week before the show, a week before the show, so that they can organize a time for the vet and the TD to be there. It usually is not first thing of the show because the TD is busy making sure that the show is going and organized. But like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, usually the first day is usually a good time to try and have a pony measurement done. Okay. Any questions on those?
No, and I want to just indicate that show secretaries are good about making sure that any pony classes are scheduled post a pony measurement.
Yep.
So that should not be an issue you have to worry about.
Yep.
Okay, next.
Okay, so now on the next page, it's actually time to sit down and do the entry. So like I said, a lot of the work of getting an entry right is done before. Online, whether you're doing it online or hard copy, make sure you choose the correct class. The biggest mistake I see here is people who are trying to get into the Festival of Champions, but they don't sign up for that class. USDF has now had us name all of those classes as 132 EF. They have to have EF in the actual number of the class. So hopefully that will keep people from either entering them when they don't want to or not entering them when they want them. So make sure you choose the correct class. Qualifying or not, make sure you put that in. That's something that we can add. Actually, we can add it up to the time you start down center line, okay? But it's better if you do it in the original. Payment. Credit card is immediate. It's going, through your credit card system. If you're going to have a check, the check is actually manufactured by Horse Show Office. They have to mail it to the secretary. The secretary then can either deposit it or has to save it until they get to the show and they give it to the show manager to deposit. So there is a time delay on that. It can be both good or bad for you depending upon how you look at it. But just realize that it will be a bit of a time before the check is deposited. Hard copy, not all shows offer that anymore because the online has gotten so much easier for us. So check with them. Please mail to the secretary, not the manager, not the location of where the show is going to be. That's always a problem when entries don't end up with the secretary and trying to get them and all the assorted paperwork with it. So please send it directly. Does the show add 3% if using a credit card payment? Again, that would be in the prize list. Okay. Some shows are doing that now. Not all shows. So they will say whether they're doing it. If you scratch from a show before the closing date, you usually get a refund of all of your fees except for the office fee. And that 3% credit card fee is usually held back also because the show had to pay it. So that's why they hold that. If you're doing a hard copy and snail mailing, please make sure you include payment, whether it's the credit card information written down or a check. The entry is not complete until we have the payment. And when you're all done, you then have the confirmation. So I'd like to go over what the confirmation email looks like from Horse Show Office. Other shows, other software might have different formats, but they should have much of the same information. So if we can go to the next page. Okay, so here's a confirmation of a real person. I've changed the name of the rider to rider and the name of the horse to horse to protect the innocent here. This is one from this year. So first you'll see the classes that are entered. So you can make sure, yep, those are the ones I wanted. You can see the queue there for qualifying. Did you want that? The stabling information. So you can see here, did I order a stall and who did I stable with? Whoops, I put the wrong name down. I need to tell them and get that changed. Okay, next page. This is here the most important information. The following issues require attention and/or documentation. So for this entry, a coach has been specified but has not signed the entry agreement. So I got an entry agreement. I got some signatures on it, but I didn't get the coach. Understandable, that's okay, but I'm just letting you know it's not complete until I get the coach's signature. And I don't have a waiver from the coach. Okay. The Coggins date is not acceptable, and the flu rhino is too old. And the rider owner trainer, so this is the same person. When we put rider / owner / trainer, it's the same person. Safe Sport expires before the last scheduled class. So it might expire the day of the show, but they have to update and do their Safe Sport before they can ride in the show. Okay. Now, a new thing that HSO now has is we will tell you, yeah, you did send some documents in, and this is what happened to them. So, for people who said, but I sent all that in, now you'll know why it wasn't accepted. So for the first one, yep, you sent me a negative Coggins test. Well, I have the name of the horse there, sorry. But it was rejected. It was processed, I got it, but it was rejected because it doesn't meet the requirements because it's over 12 months old. So this is something sometimes people do, so they want the secretary, I guess, to know that they're conscientious and they have done a Coggins, but I don't need it. And it's just taking up space on the computer, and it took you time to upload it. So you don't need to send me things that you know are out of date and I know are out of date. But if you did, I'm going to let you know. Yep, I got it, but it doesn't work. You saw a signed entry agreement and it was accepted. Okay. And they sent a waiver and it was accepted. So you can see now, oh, okay, the secretary did get the things that I sent. It's just that the Coggins was too old, and that's why I still need one. So I think that's really great information there that will really help. Now, if you need to upload something to send me, the link is right there so that you can upload it. And if you need an entry agreement or a waiver, it gives you the link right there of where to get them. If you didn't print out the prize list, or you've lost the link to where it was before, that information is right here in the confirmation. Next page. It then has all the information that you input, the name of the horse, the name of the rider, the owner, etc. One of the things that happens is we cannot accept your USDF membership if the address you gave me doesn't match the address that USDF has. And I can tell you it checks by the zip code. So sometimes you'll get a confirmation back from me and I'll put it right at the very top of the confirmation. I'll say, USDF has a different address than I have. Which one's correct? Because I don't know. It could be that you moved and you updated USDF, but you used what was already in the system for yourself and didn't update it. So that's here you can check and see what's the address that I have. Okay. Okay. Next.
We got some questions, but we can finish up and then I'll ask them.
Okay. Yeah, I just have that. And then I
Yep.
think we have some useful links at the last page.
Yeah.
One more page. Dawn. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
resources, definitely
Show secretary.
The goal of the secretary is to help you. So absolutely, feel free to ask questions, or if you need any help with getting something, really, feel free. Phone call, email, it's fine. The rule book, you should know where to go to look at the rule book. The rule book is USEF. USEF is who has the rules, not USDF. USEF is the rule book. Look at the rules, and there's both the general rules and then the dressage rules. Okay? So it's there. And then specifically saddlery and equipment. That's something that I, as a secretary, usually just sort of throw up my hands and say, go check it out in the rule book, because they change all the time. And the TD would be the official person. So when you're at the show, is this bit legal or not? I'm going to call the TD over to work with you on that. Okay. Okay. Questions?
How can we check to see if an existing chip is acceptable? I don't know that we have an answer to that, but Dawn did send a link.
Microchip is acceptable?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Paul put on there what the acceptable, what they're looking for, and it's the 15 character
Yeah.
ISO. Didn't you have that in some?
Yeah, A15 did ISO compliant chip.
Yeah.
I think at that link I shared, there's also, they actually did a video about it and a bunch of FAQs. There's actually a bunch of helpful information on that link.
Okay. This is a good question. Do we send USEF dispensation sheets to you with the registration?
Yes. So dispensation, presidential dispensation, or a para grading, either of those should be sent in with your entry, sent in as a document. And I will make sure that the judge gets them to go with your ride, as well as the warm-up steward, so that they don't, say, wait a minute, what are you riding in, type of thing. So yes, those should also come to me.
Sue, this is Melanie Hubbard. Would you mind if I made an additional comment here about this?
Sure.
I just got my para grade 5 certification last year, and one of the recommendations they made for me was that I should bring a hard copy with me to my shows. And I've found that very useful. In fact, what I do is I have a hard copy in an envelope for each class that I have, because I've had different experiences at different shows with different judges. Some judges have said, yes, I'm aware of your dispensation, and it's great, continue. So a couple of judges said, no, we weren't aware of it. And I would tell them what my dispensation included and that I have a hard copy with me if they needed it. And they were like, no, we believe you. Go ahead. That's fine. We'll make a note of it. And I've actually had 2 judges who said, yes, we'd like to see the hard copy. And I signal my groom at the other end of the ring with my hand, because they know what I'm doing. And they run down with the hard copy that I have pre-prepared for it. So I found that advice about bringing a hard copy very useful. And I just wanted to pass it along here since someone asked the question.
Good advice. We have another question. Once you have a qualifying score, is there any advantage to continuing paying the qualifying fee?
So to ride in the regional championships, you need 2 qualifying scores, different judges, etc. Once you have those 2, you will USDF posts a list of who has qualified for that level and that division. And once you're on that list, no, there's no advantage to paying the qualifying fee. You're giving USDF money, which they then turn around and put into the US finals and the US regionals, but there's no reason for you to pay that.
I just want to go back to the confirmation email, Sue, and really stress the importance of that, because I think we've both had experiences, or I had one experience where a father called me and wanted to know why he wasn't getting his ride times for his daughter's entry. The entry never came through HSO. It was considered an incomplete entry.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought that they had actually entered the show. And ride times were going out, and I did not have this person in the show. So it is very important if you've entered a show that you look for a confirmation email. And if you do not get one, you should really follow up with the show's secretary, because if there's an issue on the back end of the computer and we don't see it, or we see that it's an incomplete entry, we don't know if you intended to enter. So you should look for a confirmation email, and then there's a final ride times email that's sent as well, right?
Yep.
And both of those emails will have some of the same information, but if you enter a show and you don't get this confirmation email and it's going on and going on, you may want to check just to make sure that everything worked.
Yep.
So, anybody else have any questions? I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, all the participants. And is there another slide, Dawn? Oh, there's our question slide already. We mastered that. Next, I think is the next NEDA Know-how slide. Ah, there we go. Next week. Thank you, everybody. I have no goodbye song, so this is all I got.
Thank you.
We're gonna sing it. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Excellent. Have a good night.
Well.
Yes.
Great
have a good night.
questions.
I love it. Yep.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank
Have
you.
have a good night, everyone.
Good night.